So, hi everybody, my name's Harry Owen and I'm the Sustainability Manager for a company called MCB Seafoods based in Newhaven in Sussex. We're a seafood wholesaler and food service industry provider. So, I first started at the company, I should probably give that one. First started at the company when it's been expanding for some years, and there's a sort of growing feeling within the industry, I think, as a whole, but certainly within our sector, that we have to start taking responsibility, not just at the production and harvest side of fish, but also a bit further, well, through the whole supply chain, really, and that we need to act as sort of stewards of the resource and promote and provide an economic incentive to use the resource responsibly, and that in turn sort of works in our favour when it comes to customers and that. But I've come here today to talk to you about my work with the Triple GI, which is the Global Ghost Gear Initiative. We've been doing work setting up a net recycling scheme for end-of-life fishing gear. So that's any fishing net really just needs to be disposed of. And the main boats that we buy from at the moment are in the under 10 fleet. We source fish from local fishing vessels from Ramsgate to Littlehampton, and after I started at MCB, obviously my focus was on sustainability and furthering those issues. And as I took the company through sustainable certification, one of the areas highlighted was ghost fishing and the disposal of waste fishing gear. And I got in touch with the Triple GI because of that. And sort of this understanding grew that there was a lot of waste fishing gear that was just going to landfill if it was being brought back to land at all. I mean, thousands of tons around the coast of the UK every year. And at the moment, the vast majority of it all goes to landfill. I mean, this is a picture of the nets in Newhaven Harbour where I work, where we did our first run. This was just before we had started. There's a lot of net built up there, and it costs the fishermen a huge amount of money to get rid of this. And the cost is always borne by the fishers, either directly or indirectly. Sometimes they pay it in their harbour fees, but quite often they pay it outright themselves. And it doesn't really incentivise best practice, because if they lose fishing gear and there's no incentive to retrieve it if they think that it might be damaged, or if they're going to have to spend time looking for it. And then it's just going to be waste, and they're going to have to pay for it to be disposed of anyway. So this sort of incentivises best practice, allows them to do the right thing, and how it can be completely cost neutral. And the other thing about it that is positive is that it sort of fosters a sense of pride within their own industry. I think a lot of fishermen that I've spoken to feel that there's a demonisation of their work, and they feel like they can't talk about what they do. And being able to say, no, look, we actually are one of the few places in the country that recycles our fishing nets, gives them something that they're really proud of. And it really is the case that it is a pioneering scheme. I mean, there's some work down in the southwest where they recycle nylon, but it's only nylon that gets recycled, which cuts out a lot of fishermen. I mean, that takes all trawl net out of the equation. And you have to cut the nets out, so you only get the nylon. And if you've worked with fishermen before, you know that it's quite difficult to get them to do stuff that is in any way so you lose a lot of people in that process. Whereas Plastics, the company that we work with, our partner company in Denmark, which is where everything gets recycled, they take it all. So we just have to bag it up and send it off, and they bear all the cost. It's just a bit of time and facilitation on our part to get everything together and to make sure it's ready to go. Which is obviously much better than the alternative, which is happening at the moment, where almost 100% of it goes to landfill. I have spoken to other fishermen who say that some of theirs gets burnt. I spoke to one or two fishermen who said that they burn theirs in the field. So obviously neither of these are ideal solutions, and they're expensive both time-wise and financially. And so anything we can do to relieve this burden on fishermen is pretty useful. But it also has helped to create community bonds. There's a local artist called Ellie Birkhead, and she makes brushes from driftwood, and that's trawl netting, I think. Just waste gear that she finds on the beach, but more recently she's been coming to us to collect some of the waste netting before it goes off to be recycled. And that's quite nice. You know, it's just another use of the net without having to transport it very far and break it down and all that sort of stuff. And also we've given some to the World Cetacean Alliance. I don't have a picture of it actually, but they're a charity based down in Brighton who run Whale Fest every year. I think this year it's going to be in the Azores, and they've got a lot of net from us that they've used to build like climbing frames and stuff for kids and educational stuff, so that children can learn about the dangers of ghost fishing and the way it interacts with marine mammals and other marine organisms. Which is obviously, a positive thing, educating people from such a young age. And it's also much better to just give nets value rather than sending them all to landfill where it actually costs money. So this is putting value back in. And at the moment, it's only really the nylon, I think, that gets turned into clothes and sunglasses and shorts and all of that, and skateboards. I think there's still a problem around the PPE, the trawl netting and that sort of stuff. I think a lot of that gets melted down for oils, but it still gets reused, and it's obviously better than straight up burning on landfill. And we've had a fair amount of success. We've had 2 trips so far. That's one of the lorries. That was the second trip we did. It was almost full, but not quite full of nets when it went, which is a bit something we need to work on, making sure we maximise the space. Otherwise, it's quite difficult for our partner company to bear all the costs, which is crucial, basically, in having all the fishermen on board with this. But yeah, we've had 2 trips so far, both pretty successful, and we're taking a trip around the UK soon to talk to people at other harbours and other ports to try and get them on board, and we've had a lot of support from a group of harbours in Northern Ireland, so hopefully...
You're taking this material to overseas?
I'm going around... Oh yeah, this material here, it goes to Denmark. Denmark for recycling,
Yeah, sorry.
And Jacob, who's my contact at the Danish company, and I are taking a trip around the UK to try and get other people on board. But yeah, will all go to Denmark. But at the moment, the only other place where you can get anything recycled like that is Slovenia. And I know people who send, through the Triple GI, who send their waste nylon all the way to Slovenia from the Pacific of Canada. So, I mean, that's an incredibly long distance to send nylon just to be recycled. And you wonder if it's doing more harm than good. And then there's obviously all the rest of the net that isn't nylon, which is just still going to landfill. I think he's actually saving up, and he's now got in touch with plastics in Denmark, and I think he's starting to work with them as well. But the one thing I'd say this has exposed are the real struggles around communication and general distrust within the industry, and seeing as that's kind of what everyone is here today to do, to sort of fix the problems that come along with lack of communication through tech. That's something I thought I'd highlight. I mean, it really is quite strong. I mean, I didn't get a picture of it, but on Newhaven Quay, there are about 5 boats on one of the quays that we visited when we picked up nets. I've been talking to them all for weeks, saying, look, we need to get as much net as possible for this date so we can fill the lorry. If we fill the lorry, we're going to send it off, and it will start a successful thing, and we'll be able to build on that. And on the day of the pickup, down there filling up the lorry, and a fisherman came over, and his boat was 5-10 metres down the quay, and he had absolutely no idea that any of this was going on. They hadn't told another fisherman who was about 3 boats away. So communication and dissemination is really an important issue, because otherwise you just don't get anywhere. And it's the way that you have to communicate is difficult as well. I mean, you can't just ring up. Well, some cases you can, but it's difficult to just ring up a harbour. That often it's not organised in that way, at least in the UK. You have to get the number of a respected fisherman, and he will then put you in contact with the people in that area. But the whole way that the industry works, there's a lot of distrust, and he may only put you in contact with a few people. It's not a very level playing field when you do it like that. So any sort of tech solution to that would be amazing.
Is there a charge for this collection?
No, it's completely cost neutral. Sorry, I should have.
So they're not having to pay?
Don't have to pay a single thing. and before it used to cost the fishermen a significant amount of money. It's actually the biggest problem has been collecting nets from ports where the port authority pays for the collection, because they charge the fishermen for that, but they see it as actually more work to collect the net themselves and store it until we can come pick it up than it is for them to just collect it and throw it straight in a skip. And they're passing that cost on to the fishermen anyway, so the fishermen have no say in it, but they're paying for it indirectly. So, and that has been a real nightmare actually, to be honest. But luckily, a lot of the harbours don't operate that way. It'd be easier if they did operate that way, and then they sort of worked with us, but it doesn't always work. So that was basically a pretty short and lightning speed presentation on what we've been doing, and a bit about some of our results. And I just thought it was relevant because it has to do with two of the problem statements from the Triple GO, I think they're number 5 and 6. So thanks very much.
Brilliant.